All right, good day, everyone. Welcome to this PIMVendors.com webinar on, can it be different in 2026? Product data and artificial intelligence. Today, we're going to explore the root and foundation of our product data, how it comes into your systems, and how you can get high quality data through data cleansing. With me today is Isaac Marais from Data, and he'll introduce himself shortly. First, some quick housekeeping. We're recording this session, so if you have to leave early, that's no problem. We'll be sharing the recording with you afterwards. And there is a comments box on your right-hand side where you can see the discussion and actually interact with me and Isaac, if you like. So just drop your questions there and I'll try to weave them into the conversation if you have any questions. Now, we all see the difficulties, I would say, of applying artificial intelligence to production environments where if you just connect to ChatGPT or just connect to an LLM, you don't get surfaced if you don't have good quality data. And as always, I mean, it's true today. It was true 10 years ago, but maybe not as important. Garbage data in is garbage data out. Now, to build that foundation for your AI adventures, luckily, we have AI to help us. Now, if you are struggling with any of that, with setting up your product data architecture or your product data process, do reach out to us. As a co-founder of PIMVendors.com, this is what we do. We help companies with their product data challenges, getting the right processes and steps in place, getting the right governance in place, and yes, also getting the right tools in place. That is a great segue to one of the leading tools in the product data and AI space, or should I say suites, right? So it's a set of tools, but that's, I think, all for Isaac to discuss today. Isaac, could you quickly introduce yourself and ICA Data?
Hi, Stefan. Thank you very much, and great to be on one of your podcasts again. I'm Isaac Marais, the CEO and one of the founders of ICA Data International. We are a British-based company that operates on 6 continents, 55 countries. Yeah, that in short.
That's short and sweet. As I said, it's the foundation of your product data architecture is good data, good quality product data. And as already mentioned, if you want to build on something, you need to have that foundation in place. What we see a lot with our customers now is that they did the first AI experiments, right? I think 2025, 2024 was the mission everyone got from their boards or from their directors was do something with AI. I think The Economist had a great article on this where they said of the, I think, 590 billion spent on artificial intelligence projects last year, only about 20% had a positive return on investment. You need to have a good foundation for those AI investments to come to fruition, to actually deliver a return. So I think what we're seeing in the market now, at least what we are seeing with our customers, is that instead of playing artificial intelligence theater, playing innovation theater, building nice entertainment and interesting proof of concepts, it was mostly entertainment or maybe discovery or experimentation, not really ready for enterprise level production environments. I think what we're seeing now is a return back to that foundation and getting that foundation in place so you can actually start building serious AI projects and really building that solid foundation to grow all your projects on. To get to that good quality product data foundation, you need good quality product data. And that's what we see being neglected over the past 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it was never the most glamorous job to check product data. It was never necessary to check product data and make sure that you had everything fully cleansed. But I think that the market is slowly starting to realize that you need to have that in place, right? You need to have that foundation in place and it needs to be high quality. And we've been inviting you to our webinars for quite some time now. And I think we're getting to the point where the market now also finally understands the importance of this. So I would say, Isaac, walk us through your vision, and yeah, please disagree with me if you think that is not entirely true.
Stefan, no, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. So from the outset, ICA's always had dictionaries. And maybe I must just bring this into perspective. We all know with the emergence of a ChatGPT and the Groks and all those different large language models, we're able to do so much more. The challenge in the corporate environment or the industrial environment that we operate in is the accuracy levels are not that great. It's about a 30%. And yes, they say they're getting better, but you still need guardrails. And more they talk about guardrails. Now, in the case of the environment that we operate in, the product data dictionary, and this is the foundation of what our technology has been built on, is on dictionaries. Now, for the first time, we can develop or we've got a front end to explain to clients, because in the past they said, but how do you get to these phenomenal accuracy levels, and how do we know we can trust this? So that's really where sort of a product data dictionary comes in. This is the guardrail, and this is the foundation of what your product data should be built on. And maybe I can just go through what we have here. So the ICA Master Data Dictionary is really a layer that standardizes and governs and enriches product data. That's the foundation. If you don't have a dictionary, your accuracy levels are not going to be good. In this case, what I've done, I've only brought in about 5,000 taxonomy nodes, 2,000 governed terms. And what I do want to mention, over the last few months, clients requested that we build custom dictionaries for them. Now, this is quite interesting because each and every client has got a different profile or the way that their data is being consumed and that they use it. So the custom dictionaries are becoming sort of more of a need by some of our customers. So I'm just going to run through a little bit and give you a bit of an idea. Here, and this is our back end side. You can view what activity has been in the dictionary. And sorry, this is a huge, but it gives you a sort of idea when we do curation. O-ring, there's a duplicate in the data set. We can see where this comes in. And again, this is where human intervention comes in. And this is our data stewardship side. Maybe let me just go back. Also, please do remember there's a lot of technical things that I'm going to discuss. Please reach out. Ask if I go too fast, say, and then Stefan will just take it from his side and advise accordingly. So, okay, where does it fit in? ICA is not a replacement for your MDM, your ERP, your PIM, and your enterprise asset management. It's a semantic enrichment and governance layer. Governance, very important. If you don't have proper governance in your data, it's not going to be correct. And we've seen it time and time again where organizations go and they do product data cleansing and enrichment exercises, but then going down the line, it is not maintained. Now, data needs to be maintained. Again, AI makes it much easier for us to do that. So again, what is the data architecture? We really take the dirty silo. Very important when I talk about silos. If you look at multi-continental and multilingual organizations, it becomes extremely difficult to get one true golden record. And this is what we do. We build that golden record, but the foundation is really the dictionary. And then it goes into the ICA semantic layer, the taxonomy, thesaurus, control vocabulary, attribute ontology, to ensure that the data that then goes into the MDM, the ERP, and whichever system is properly brought in. Now, quite interesting, well, not interesting, it's a fact that not all ERP systems can handle the richness of the product data and the ontologies. And that's where data lakes and PIMs are coming in more, because you need granularity within your data to, at a later stage, when you do predictive analytics or spend analytics, the richer the data, the more correct the data, the more you can do and bring in huge savings within the organization. So let's just quickly talk about the dictionary components. We talked about taxonomy management. I'll take you there in a minute. But basically, it's building and maintaining, classifying hierarchies of, in our case, MRO and product categories aligned with other UNSPSC, E-Class, ETIM, or your own taxonomy that you have. We're also finding more and more that organizations say, I've got a blend of taxonomy management that comes in, but it's important that you standardize L1 to L3 hierarchies, industry standard mappings, and we're going to go there a little bit later on. Cross-domain classifications, if you look at multilingual thesaurus, manage synonyms, abbreviations, term variations. Again, we adapt the dictionary to the amount of languages that is within your sphere. With global organizations, they don't only manage 11 languages, and I'll later on show you that variations of Spanish and French across the world are completely different. You can't just have one specific naming convention, because there's slang that comes in. We refer to it as taxonomy as well. And then next, semantic ontology, defining the relationships between products, services, and concepts. This is hugely important, especially in machine learning and predictive analytics. If you've got a understanding of the context, you can get so much more out of the data, because now you can start pulling relationships between products, and understand it much better. But you've got to build a dictionary to do that. So part and substitute links, compatibility mappings. We find it. So on compatibility, bills of materials. Now you'll get items that are in various bills of materials, but the full understanding for us as humans are too difficult, but machines do understand it better if it's properly sort of the ontology is properly set up. And then the attribute rules itself, quality enforcement, required attribute governance, and validation rules. We are going to go a little bit deeper into that as we carry on. So how do we improve everyone's systems? As I said earlier, we're not an MDM, we're not a PIM, we're not an ERP, enterprise asset management, but we ensure that there's cleaner and richer and better data and standard and compliance. And this is where your compliance comes in as well. I'll dive down a little bit deeper into the taxonomy just now, but why high quality product data creation matters. Raw supplier data. Now, traditionally, PIMs and a lot of systems are set up and you expect to get 100% clean and enriched data from your supplier. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in the industrial environment, because suppliers might be wholesalers. So the challenge lies in the fact that the data that either wholesalers or suppliers supply to the end user or the customer is not necessarily rich. They don't want it to be rich. Why? Because when you start doing spend analytics, you will find duplicates, and it reduces their side or their competitive edge, where traditionally they sat with the knowledge of, call it the subject matter expertise on the product. So raw data from a supplier, we then take it into the ICA dictionary, govern data delivery. But to give you a bit of an idea, so what is the difference? I hope you can see all of this. So the challenge is product naming, classification. You can see without a dictionary and with a dictionary, classification, missing attributes, multilingual data, duplicates itself, AI output. Now we're seeing that bots and AI agents are becoming more important. Now, if you bring in AI agents into your procurement process to validate certain things, if the data is not clean and enriched, it can't do a good job. So when it goes out and searches for potential substitutes or different products, it won't be successful. It does need that richer data. Okay, so last time, and we did make a video on smart capture. So smart capture is the solution for identifying sort of products with bad descriptions. If you, for instance, in the last time we said in your MDM it says bearing $10 million or $3 million, it doesn't matter. What bearing is it? So that's where smart capture comes in. There's a separate video on that. And then just quickly, the client data cleansing and enrichment process: ingest, normalize, classify, gap check, enrich, and govern. I'm not going to go through this. Very important. I just want to talk about this because why ICA prevents AI hallucinations. AI agents operate without grounded reference, freely invent product codes, attributes, classifications. This is why we have the dictionary. This is the big difference between just going into ChatGPT or whichever LLM and asking a question. If you don't have background, it's going to come back with lots of things, hallucinations. We'll quickly touch on the user guide. I'm going to take you into the taxonomy and the thesaurus. Let me just go. I just maybe want to touch on here to give you an idea of what type of data. Now, in this case, this is Power Tools. In column B, I hope this is visible enough, is sort of the taxonomy. So we haven't brought in the different product attributes itself, but just in this specific data set that we brought in, there's over 8,000 different variants. Our total trained set is on over 11 million products, okay, which gives us the accuracy level, and we add to that the whole time. We do not use customers' data to train. That because again, customers' data is, well, it's not clean and enriched enough for us to work on. Okay, let's just quickly go. I'm not going to go into everything. Let's go into taxonomy and give you an idea of the taxonomy. And so at the top, we've got sort of mechanical equipment, but then you've got cutting tools. Remember I showed you, so this is a specific data set on mechanical equipment, and then the different levels. I'm just scrolling over this that you can get an idea. If there's any questions about this, please just reach out. Okay. Now, again, if we look at this thesaurus, your different words and the different areas. Now, it will vary. The French one, you can see Canadian, Swiss, Belgian, French. In this case, it's the same, but look at the, that's German. It might vary. And that's why it's so important having a smart capture, because now on the level of the user, the data can be corrected. Extremely important. And that's what a lot of dictionaries do not get right. It's manual interventions, too much manual intervention. Here we try to improve that. Just check if there's something. I'm not going to go into. Let me go into relationships, ontology. I'm going sort of on a broad spectrum over. Afterwards, please reach out to Stefan, myself, if you've got specific questions. But again, attachment has a narrower term, is part of. So now we start bringing really meaning into the product or the name itself. If you look at knowledge graphs are traditionally quite difficult. Now, again, there's a lot in here, and it's not possible to view up. I'll give you a separate. In this case, we've got a total of 5,000 relationships, types 14, connected nodes 4,800. Attachment, in this case, we've got caterpillar, plant, engine parts, unknown, batteries, cabs, part of the relationship types. So this is the sort of the inside of the data dictionary. Just want to see on this.
And maybe, Isaac, this is this is already like available and preloaded, right? So this is not something you have to reconfigure for every client or every new deployment.
Yeah, correct. But we also do then build, sorry, the screen sizes are now not big enough, but in essence, when you click on here, it does provide on the side window, just want to see what, a description of where it fits in and what the relationship is. The source tables. This is again very high level. Sorry that the volume is too high. Again, here we talked about that. Let me just talk about, let's go to attribute rules.
And can these all be customized per customer? So when
Absolutely.
you have
And that's the ideas as well. So we've obviously got the large data sets. I'm going to go into that. Let's see if I can pull this up again. The screen of enlarge so much now that you can't see the different relationships. Yeah, let me go to industry standards. HS codes. So HS codes are becoming more important. That HS codes are mapped, especially now with the challenges, obviously, with custom tariff codes and the level of tariff codes being changed the whole time. This becomes quite important. Let's go into again. If we look at sorry, let me just CN 2026 manager. How does the CN codes? How does it fit in? So we can map that. Let me go a bit industry standards. So whichever industry or standard that you supposed to comply to, whether it's United Standard, UN is, or electronic address schema, or NATO, GS1, ETIM, E-class, building topology ontologies. All of these are built in, okay, but will be amended according to the requirement of the client itself. Just want to see if I can find. So this gives you a good idea of, now, if you look at the ball bearing part of manufacturing, the attributes, bore diameter, outer diameter, width. Now, when we bring in client's data, this is where the detail changes, okay? Because the bore diameter of a bearing will be different per bearing type. But we bring in the standards as well, V-belts. Now you get closer to the actual depth of the product data. And I think I'm not going to go into, maybe what I can do is I'm not going to go through everything, but
not
yeah,
today.
just.
But if people are interested, they can check. And so all these classifications are already preloaded as well. So ETIM or GS1, or if you have a specific, I know GS1 is supposed to be the global standard for many products, and there are some global standards, but the GS1 organization is also fractured. Yeah. So you get local standards as well. You can upload these as well and define them here.
Yeah. So Stefan, also, just how to use the ICA product data dictionary. There's clear sort of guidance on how that should be done, how we do it. I'm not going to go through everything. I mean, it's there's a lot of information. I'm not going to go into the database itself, but the dictionary, the purpose, and the roles of people within. So it's a complete system. I would rather that when somebody's interested, that they reach out to us and ask for it, and we can go into detail. But yeah, any questions?
What I'm interested in is sort of the integration of this, right? So what you're showing here is the results and sort of the configuration part. So you can configure or at least see the dashboard here. If you have a current deployment of a PIM or MDM process in your architecture, how would that work if you want to deploy ICA data?
Yeah, so it would be an API integration with mapping. But what we are looking now, the future now is moving towards edge devices. So we will embed this into into models that run on it can run on your iPhone, not this year, next year. But the idea is moving also from a process cost perspective. The future is that you run on edge. So we train our models, and eventually you can run it in your own environment. What does that mean? It means that tokenized usage is not required anymore because it's run internally. The foundations are there, and that's what we're working towards. But the technology is moving fast, where open source models are created, and we'll be able to run that on edge devices. At the moment, it's API. In other words, we integrate with your existing system, and there's tokenized pricing, pretty much the same as what you pay for all the LLMs. The cost is more than 90% more efficient than traditional methods, and it's just going down. So, getting your foundation right is very important. Cost is not a challenge anymore. Technology is not a challenge anymore. Does that answer your question, Stefan?
Yeah, it does. So it really, it is flexible in a way that whether you want to bolt it onto an existing MDM or PIM, and if you're managing your onboarding process there, you can add an API call to that process. If you want to manage it separately, you can do that. You can do that as well. I think that flexibility is what we need in this stage, right? So depending on whether you manage your product data in a dedicated solution already, or whether you manage it in ERP or some bolt-on solutions to your ERP, we can currently just connect these dedicated AI tools. You can connect ICA data to that. What I foresee in the future is that, like you said, it's an app or an edge device where you have the product data or the data, and you want to stay as close as possible to the data, because the further away you are, the probably more expensive from just a latency perspective, and maybe also from an inference perspective, the whole job is going to be. I think what I find interesting as well is, but that is a bit broader in that sense. So, is the whole process of implementation, and embedding AI as well, right? So what you have here are the key ingredients to get high quality cleansing, right? Just using Folksonomy, using data dictionaries, using existing product data models or standards like UNSPSC or GS1. That is great scaffolding to get to a high quality product data or a high quality cleansing process, basically. I'm curious how that works from a sort of human in the loop perspective, or how you would embed this in a governance framework, because you're no longer managing like tools and getting to a specific like human cleansed attribute. Like, it's not a human who says, "Oh, this is a spanner" or "this is a wrench." You're getting a guess, basically. I mean, it's all these large language models are basically prediction engines on what this actually is. Is it a spanner or a wrench, or are these actually the same product? How would you embed that? I would say that non-deterministic approach into a governance framework.
Yeah. So this is where, and I just shared the screen now, the stewardship queue. A human still needs to verify the data, but after multiple iterations, the system teaches itself and the AI agents within the system what is right and what is wrong. Also, if you look at where smart capture comes in, remember there's changes in the data the whole time. Now, words and dictionaries do not stay the same. There's new words invented on a daily basis in multiple languages. So that's where smart capture comes in. This is where a stewardship solution comes in. And we believe that eventually our solution will be built into PIM solutions and into MDM solutions that does not have the functionality. The user will not necessarily know about it. They would just see that their data is much better. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So, and then the question, of course, is where do you manage this exception queue? And that could be in a dashboard here, right? It could also be integrated in the PIM tooling or in the MDM tooling, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is it like fully headless? Like if you would create your own cockpit for your data steward or your data cleanser or however you product manager, however you want to call that person within your team, like is that something you can just grab from the
Nowadays, it's so easy to to change the front end,
yeah
um, to adapt it to the requirements of the client. We are seeing the migration. As we said, product data and data lakes or databases. The future would be the user will determine how they want to consume it. Now, to build those front ends is not difficult anymore. That can be done in hours, if not days. So the specification on how the user wants to consume that data, we can do on a fly now. It's not a challenge anymore.
yeah that's I mean in there we're going to get to the sort of current state or maybe the current frontier on the front end of AI where indeed you can basically, well, we're almost at the stage where you can just ask Claude Code to create an interface based on the Data API, pull that dashboard data, pull that workflow data, and basically build a custom cockpit for your data steward using the APIs from in this
So,
case from
so
ICA. So
interesting, Stefan. Also now having AI agents that support call it the data stewards. So a data steward's level of productivity will go up by 500%. Why? You will have different AI agents that verify and pick up anomalies and say, hey, Stefan, this doesn't look right. I need your assistance on it. So all of that technology is making the people in our industry that has product data challenges just so much more productive. Because he's got a team of 50 or 100 agents that works and goes through the dictionary the whole time and asks it questions and verify it externally. Yeah, we understand that technology. That's why all all of our offerings, whether it's classification or enrichment or smart capture or the dictionary or foresight, all has multitudes of AI agents that is there to support the user.
it's a bit of an open door or a cheeky question. Why should you just not ask ChatGPT to do this data cleansing for you?
Again, as I said, you don't have guardrails. You can't prompt engineer. You can prompt engineer. You can write some code in Claude, but again, over the variety of items, and if you've got data sets of 40 to 300,000 items, hey buddy, you're going to spend a lot of time manually doing that, and every time asking Claude, and then the chance of it making mistakes. Whereas in this platform, the foundations are built, and it's not something that was done in a week or 2 weeks. It's done with lots of industry knowledge, and as technology evolved over the last 4 years, we enhanced this further.
Yeah. And I think what people underestimate is the complexity layered behind the tooling. I said already, like we have been inviting you for quite a few years now, where of course the tool, the ICA data tool suite, has evolved as well. But also just the quality itself, where you're missing the guardrails, but you're missing the depth and the agentic cleansing or the agentic deduplication. Like there's so much more behind the surface of just a simple API call. Yeah, you think it's easy until you go through that one-way door, asking Claude or ChatGPT to cleanse all your data, and suddenly realizing that there are some issues with that data quality, and it did do some hallucinations or it did miss the context window somewhere. And then it's very difficult to then go back to the previous state or understand what of the new data is actually still correct, because you currently have synthetic data in all your products and in your whole product data set. So then starting to sort of go back and understand what was the truth, what was actually data that I could trust, what is data that I currently can't trust, then becomes very, very hard.
Stefan, also maybe another thing to consider, doing the manual process or trying to use either Claude or ChatGPT, your cost will be quite high because there's not a framework. Now, the cost will be lower than doing it one by one, but if you've got to do multiple token usage on the same challenge, remember that's all built in. So we don't need to, how can I say, consume more tokens when the answer is already there. And the answers are global answers that we have, not fixed to so that makes a huge difference. And that's part of our moat as well. The cost is just on a different level, 100 times less than doing it the old way.
Yeah, that's good to note as well. Like we're all living still on a sort of, oh, it's like magical token cost, or it's just, but yeah, if you start seriously using one of these APIs, and especially on serious big data sets, product data sets, you'll burn through tokens. Well, you'll burn through just API money very, very quickly. That escalates very, very quickly, especially on the more expensive models. And you want the more expensive models for the higher quality. So yeah, there's a business case here as well.
So also that's, sorry, Stefan, on our website, we do give clients the opportunity to have a look at what the potential savings will be from clean data. There's ROI calculators that one can go in. Let me just, so, they can work through, let me just quickly see, calculate the value, on a basic level. And if you go into a more advanced calculation side, what can you save? So it's an estimation and going through all these calculations. But for the first time, that was one of the challenges that we sat with right in the beginning. How do I validate the value of clean data? Nobody could define that. Now we can, because those calculators are there, and they improve as we do different projects.
Okay, I do not have any additional questions from the audience. I mean, the invitation is still open. If you have any questions, I would say just reach out to Isaac. I shared his profile, and I'm confident that you can find him on LinkedIn, or on icadata.com, which I also shared in the chat. So if you want to explore further, I would say go there or reach out to Isaac directly for a demo. If you have any questions you didn't dare ask publicly, that's also, I think, a great place to start. Or just reach out to me, and we'll tackle those problems together. Anything you want to add as maybe a closing thought, Isaac?
No, Stefan, just thank you very much. Really appreciate PIM Vendors being a key partner to us, hosting these podcasts and different videos. It makes a huge difference, and really want to thank you for it. It's always a pleasure being on one of your shows.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Thanks for joining me today. I think the reason we do this is because I got fed up with, the entertainment style webinars around AI that we see so often, and the entertainment style products that we see demoed so often, where it's great to build a pilot or showcase a proof of concept or have something that works in the best case scenario and delivers beautiful results. But the real world is messy, and product data quality is low, to say the least. Processes are messy. Like it's a jungle out there, and you need tools that work in both environments, both in the clean demo environment, but more importantly in the jungle of product data quality. And we've been following along in the journey, and I think still Icadata is one of the few tools that does this consistently, and improves their quality consistently above the other players in the market, and especially the base models that so many people are only now starting to use. So I would say leapfrog that stage. Yes, play around with Claude Code and with ChatGPT, but only to discover that it's not a good solution, or it's not worth your while or your token costs to do the whole data cleansing through one of those tools. So check icadata.com and use code pimvendors.com for 10% off. No, but I'm serious though, where it is difficult to find the tools that actually work in practice and work in production level environments. And it's great to showcase them on our platform. So with that being said, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the audience for joining us today, and hope to see you back. We will be back for sure. So have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,